Update 2. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my oldest daughter to use my home as her wedding venue because her mother and her family will be invited? Original post. I'm in a pretty bad situation right now. When my stepdaughter got married 2 years ago, she used our home as the wedding venue. We have a meadow in our backyard that is able to accommodate a large number of people, as well as an empty, clean barn that can be set up for dinner tables. My daughter was supposed to marry at another location last year, but because of the pandemic, the venue shut down permanently. She's now asked to use my home for the wedding, but I told her my issues with that. I had a restraining order against her mother, my ex, and a few members of her family after threats and harassment were directed toward my wife and myself. The restraining order expired mid-last year, and we haven't heard from them since, but I stayed firm in my decision. This has upset my daughter greatly, and she screamed at me, which she's never done before. I offered to give her $15,000 for an alternative venue, but now she's adamant about it being at our home. I feel extremely uncomfortable giving my ex and her family access to my home because that's where the washrooms will be. My daughter has put this issue on Facebook, and now I have all of my extended family against me. This has also stirred up my ex and her family against me. And worse, my wife and stepdaughter are now being accused of trying to ruin my daughter's wedding, even though they haven't played any parts in it. I'm planning on giving in and letting my daughter use our home for the wedding later this year. But I'm going to tell my wife and stepdaughter not to be around for it, which I'm sure is going to create a bunch of other issues. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Not the a-hole. Go renew the restraining order if your ex and her family are harassing you, and explain to your daughter that she can either have the wedding at your home without her mother and her side of the family, or she can accept the $15,000 and have it elsewhere. But for personal safety reasons, you will not let her mother into your home. Otherwise, rent porta potties. They have some super fancy ones for weddings. Trailers don't look or smell like porta potties, with a washroom. I won't be renewing the order because I don't have any real standing this time. I also don't want to renew it because I do want to attend my daughter's wedding without causing any issues. But the outdoor bathrooms are an excellent idea. I've texted the idea to my daughter. Not the a-hole. But how is it that you raised your, presumably, adult daughter in such a way that when you don't give her what she wants, she screams at you and goes after you on Facebook? And why do you now think the right thing to do is to give in to her antics by letting her have the wedding at your house after all? My own daughter just got married and I provided financial support. If she had screamed at me about anything related to the wedding, you can be sure that financial support would have been withdrawn. My daughter has never raised her voice at me, but I can only imagine that other family members are riling her up. She also posted something on Facebook that didn't explicitly blame me, but my own sister made it into a circus that involved my ex and her family. I feel badly that my daughter is under all this stress due to my ex and my issues. Not the a-hole. I'm constantly baffled by the massive levels of entitlement and self-centeredness people show. All your daughter cares about is that she gets her due, which is your home as the venue. She shows zero empathy or care about the fact that you actually had such a bad falling out with your ex-wife that you had to get a restraining order. You didn't make the biggest mistake of your life at all. Your concerns were very reasonable. Your daughter behaved like an absolute self-centered brat with no consideration for anyone else, including her parents. On top of that, she went nuclear by sharing it with the world and airing dirty laundry in public. You did nothing wrong here. All this did was reveal the true character of your kid. That's the sad part. The thing is, it would have come out sooner or later, so you're better off that it came out now instead of later. I was always very close to my daughter, and she's had to deal with a lot of issues because of my problems with my ex. But she's always remained sweet to me and has never asked anything from me. But in hindsight, I can see why she's finally reached her limit with dealing with my issues. I'm absolutely gutted that she's reached this point with me. I really should have just sucked it up for one night. But I know that things are just going to get much worse because my stepdaughter's husband works for my father. But my parents favor my daughter, so I know this is only going to get worse, and I'm feeling very fearful over what's to come. Mini update same day. I messaged my daughter about the outdoor trailer bathrooms, and she refused and said it was a disgusting idea. She then accused me of treating her worse than my stepdaughter, that I play favorites, and that I'm a terrible father. She no longer wants the wedding at our home and hung up. She is no longer picking up my calls. I got an angry call from my mother, who says she is hosting the wedding instead, and that I will not be welcome at the wedding. My father will be walking my daughter down the aisle instead of me. Thanks everyone for the advice. I appreciate it, but I feel like I've made the biggest mistake of my life. I'm completely heartbroken. Now for the full update. I've had many messages asking me for an update that I only noticed after logging back into this account. I have a fairly positive update. My daughter's wedding took place in October last year. After a few months of my daughter refusing to talk to me, my wife saw how I was being affected by the situation and said I should just let my daughter use our home without any restrictions, that we should lock up our valuables and hope for the best. I was extremely hesitant, but at my wife's insistence, I arranged a meeting at my mother's home and made the offer. I was immediately told that it was too late, that the new invitations had already been sent out, and that the wedding would be happening at my mother's property. But my daughter asked for the $15,000 I had originally offered for an alternative venue to be used to renovate my mother's home a little for the wedding. I just accepted that this was the best it was going to get and gave her the money. My daughter still didn't warm up to me after this and would only reply to texts occasionally. Then a month before the wedding, I was told to come to the wedding without my wife. My daughter said that, similar to how my wife and I felt, her mother and some members of her maternal family felt uncomfortable being around us due to the expired restraining order. She said she was willing to fight them to have her father at the wedding, but my wife, stepdaughter, and her husband were not invited. I was incredibly disappointed. I wanted to confront my daughter and potentially not go to the wedding at all if my wife wasn't invited. But my wife said that there's too much bad blood and I should just attend the wedding quietly for my daughter's sake. I ended up attending the wedding alone and left once dinner was done. While I got to see my daughter get married, my heart feels heavy that it was such a conflict-filled situation. Even having me walk her down the aisle became such a touchy subject that she just ended up having her half-brother walk her down the aisle instead. When I went to congratulate my daughter before I left, she angrily told me that she should have just eloped because of me and my ex, and that it's disgusting that her own parents ruined every aspect of her wedding. She said she can't wait to build a life separate from everyone. I apologized and cried on my way home. A part of me is happy that my daughter is still somewhat talking to me, but I do regret putting her under so much stress. It's not her fault her parents can't get along. I'm just hopeful that we can slowly start repairing our relationship. I am sorry about the whole situation. You didn't do anything wrong, and your daughter sounds very selfish. From what I've read, you and your ex did not ruin her wedding. She was fixated on using your house, and after you said no, she decided to just blame every bad thing on you. I also think her not allowing your wife to attend was unreasonable. You didn't want your ex and her family at your house. They decided they didn't want your wife and family at your mother's house? I know you're hopeful about repairing the relationship, but it doesn't sound like she wants that. Be careful if she does reach out in the future, that she's not just doing it to use you for money or something similar. I really don't think it's about money, since my parents and her new husband are well off. She just thinks I treated her worse than my stepdaughter after the whole venue situation, and I hate that she feels that way, even after I've tried to explain my reasoning. And she's definitely been caught between me and her mother's issues. It's not her fault that her mother escalated things to the point of us needing to file restraining orders. It's just been a highly stressful situation, and I feel very badly that I played a part in making her wedding not a completely happy event. She does seem to be open to replying to my texts occasionally, so I'm hoping with time she'll warm up to me again. But my wife said that there's too much bad blood and I should just attend the wedding quietly for my daughter's sake. That is very mature of your wife. She is an incredible person, but the really unfortunate part of this whole situation has been the fallout that my wife and stepdaughter have had to deal with. There are members of my family who think my wife played a part in not having our home made available for my daughter, even though I've repeatedly told them that she, in fact, pushed to let the wedding happen at our home. Even worse is that both my daughter and my stepdaughter's husband worked for my father. My son-in-law had to change companies because of how awkward the entire situation was, since my father was fully supporting my daughter. So my stepdaughter ended up moving 2 hours away, which has upset my wife greatly. I just keep thinking that maybe if we'd sucked it up for one day and let the wedding happen at our home in the first place, we wouldn't be in this terrible situation. I'm very confused about why your own parents and sister are on your daughter's and her mom's side in this situation. Is there information being left out? Regardless, I am sorry to hear about what you're going through. I hope things work out for the better with you and your daughter. My parents despise my ex as much as I do, if not more. They even contemplated getting a protection order against my ex at one point, but they compensate by favoring my daughter to the extreme. My sister is miserable and likes to gossip with my ex. My parents and I do not have a relationship with my sister. She wasn't invited to the wedding. My mother is of the mindset that my daughter should come first over everybody because her parents are divorced. I don't feel that's a healthy way to raise someone, but I can only control my actions. It's just dysfunctional family dynamics all around. Now let's hear from the daughter's post a month later. I hope you're really happy. Not only was my wedding miserable, but ever since you and mom divorced, my whole life has been. You want to talk about how horrible she is? Yeah, you're right. She is. But so are you. You always put me in a position where I felt that even saying the slightest positive thing about her would get me in trouble. My birthdays were horrible because you both couldn't grow up and behave. I hate my birthdays now because all I can remember is you screaming at each other. You never cared about me. You cared more about hurting her. I tried to be so understanding. I always told myself that my mom was worse. But no, you're horrible too. You made me feel like a second-class citizen at home. You showed my stepsister so much more love and care than you did me. Do you know how much it hurt seeing you accommodate her every wish at her wedding? Do you know how much it hurt when you basically laughed in my face when I asked for the same? You are not the polite martyr you made everyone believe you are. I'm done with you. I was done with you when you kept making remarks at my wedding. I was done with you when you basically screamed at me for not inviting your wife and her daughter. They don't feel like family. Neither do you now. Oh yeah, I'm expecting. That was a surprise. I was thinking of calling you, but after seeing your posts, I don't want to. My therapist says that you and my mother are the cause of my childhood trauma. And this year, I will cut out toxic people. If you care so much about the money, I'll mail the check to you. I'm done with you, with your wife, and your daughter that you love so much. Don't worry, I'm also done with your ex. Hope you're happy, and I hope Reddit karma is a good substitute for me. Edit. I'm gonna be honest here. His comments were the ones that hurt me the most, because he has always been like that. His stepdaughter could do no wrong, even though she was my biggest bully at home. She would directly taunt me, saying that my own father loved her more than me. She would do things like cry when I didn't lend her stuff and tell my father I had slapped her, or she would take my stuff and pretend it was hers. Also, her husband didn't get fired because of me. His performance was critically lacking. He was leaning back because he thought he had secured his future there. He made a lot of careless mistakes and would basically use company time as his own. His wife is another story. She was always the saint in front of him. She would never straight up tell me she hated me or anything. She would do little indirect jabs so she could always say she didn't mean it. I hated being there. I hated being at my mom's place too, because she cared more about her boyfriends. So I just spent most of my time with friends, or outside, or with my grandparents. My grandparents are honestly the only saving grace. Even they are so disappointed with my father, their own son. Last story. Am I the a-hole for reporting my boyfriend's mom for taking and wearing my graduation dress? I, 33 female, just finished my degree after 5 years of part-time school while working full-time. My boyfriend, Ben, 34 male, and I have been together for 3 years. His mom, Terry, can be a lot, but we've mostly gotten along. A couple of months ago, Terry offered to take me dress shopping for my graduation. I wasn't planning a big party or anything, but I wanted something nice to wear for the ceremony and a small dinner afterward. We found a dark green wrap dress at a boutique. It was $280, which was more than I'd normally spend, but she offered to cover half of it as a graduation gift. Since I was in a tiny apartment at the time with basically no closet space, she offered to store the dress for me in her guest room so it wouldn't get wrinkled or damaged. I appreciated it and didn't think twice about it. 2 days before graduation, I went over to pick it up. That's when she told me she had lent it to a friend's daughter for a banquet and said it was being cleaned. I was completely thrown. I hadn't even worn it yet. She just said she didn't think I'd mind and figured I had something else to wear. I didn't. I had bought that dress specifically for this day. I ended up running out the night before graduation and grabbing something that fit okay, but it wasn't the same. The day was still nice, but I was pretty upset. Afterward, I kept asking her when I'd be getting the dress back. She was vague and avoided the question. She wouldn't tell me the name of the cleaner or give a straight answer. She made it sound like I was overreacting. About a week later, I was sitting with Ben while he was scrolling through Instagram. One of Terry's friends had posted photos from her birthday dinner. I looked over and saw a group photo. Right in the middle was Terry, clearly wearing my graduation dress. I said, "Is that my dress?" And Ben just froze. It was obviously the same one. She never lent it to anyone. She wore it herself. When I confronted her, she admitted it and said she only wore it for a couple of hours and planned to return it. I said I didn't want it anymore and asked her to reimburse me. She said she already paid her half and called me immature. So I filed a small claims case. She took something that belonged to me, wore it, lied about it, and won't pay me back. Now her family, her sister and some of the cousins I'm close with, is saying I'm blowing things out of proportion and embarrassing her. Ben is asking me to drop it to keep the peace. But it wasn't just a dress to me. It marked something important. I picked it out for a once-in-a-lifetime moment, and she made it about herself. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I'd be hesitant to keep dating someone that was raised by a person with such a staggering lack of boundaries and accountability. Ben is asking me to drop it to keep the peace. Ben expects you to be a doormat. Can't wait for her to be wearing your wedding dress to your wedding, while Terry's son keeps whispering that it's not a big deal. You can get one at the thrift store. Not the a-hole. Tell the family that Terry offered to pay half as your grad gift. You did not offer to pay for half of a dress you were not going to get to wear. And definitely aren't paying full price for a now used dress. The entitlement is ridiculous. You realize she knew when the dress was bought that she was going to wear it. She finagled it so you let her take it home. She made you pay half of her dress. I'm sure you love your boyfriend, but I'd have nothing else to do with his mother. Edit/mini update. I'm seeing a lot of people say things about my boyfriend, but in his defense, I think he just thought I was maybe going a step too far with filing a claim, not for being upset with his mom. He's been supportive the last bit or so since I filed. Ben called his mom half an hour ago and told her how many people are saying her actions were wrong and that I'm not being overdramatic, and she's dead set that she isn't in the wrong. He said he's done with her BS. He told her to give the dress back, and his mom says she doesn't want to deal with me now. And she paid half only when she thought I was a nice girl, but not anymore, so I can pay the rest myself. It's honestly insane.